It's all coming to an end now. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the Prime Vanguard channel. And today I'm going to be introducing to you my last decks for the VPremium format. Now, in case you guys don't know, we are only about 3 weeks away from the introduction of the Overdressed trial decks in the English format. And with the introduction means the introducing of a whole new format. So VPremium will no longer be being supported as much, which means that this is pretty much my farewell deck profiles to V. Now, I've already made a video on my channel discussing how V is going to be continued on this channel and what my plans are for V on this channel. I'm still going to support it, but after I get done with these deck profiles and once I get introduced into Overdress, my channel will be going more into an overhaul, focusing on Overdress decks and me playtesting that out and seeing what I can do with Overdress and my takes on the deck that when they come out in English. And you won't be seeing V as much on this channel, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and enjoy the decks that we have and talk about them while they're here. In today's deck profile, I'm going to be introducing to you my Zeal deck for Dimension Police. So without further ado, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you my newest deck profile on Zeal. So let's get started. Alright everybody, welcome to the deck profile. So we're going to get started off with 4 copies of Galactic Beast Zeal. Galactic Beast Zeal is one of the newest Grade 3 Dimension Police units to join into our ranks, and he's got an array of unique effects that have never been featured before, so I'm going to go ahead and explain them to you. He's got 2 effects, and the first one is on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. When placed from the hand, you get to look at the top card of your deck and call it to the Rearguard Circle. If he's on the Vanguard Circle, you can choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and that unit gets minus 5,000 power until the end of the turn for each force marker on your opponent's circle. His second ability states, on the Vanguard Circle, you may counterblast 1 and put 1 or more Rearguard into your soul. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and until the end of the turn, that unit gets minus 10,000 power. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is a Grade 3, this unit gets plus 1 drive per every 2 cards you put into the soul, only if you have Devourer planted Zeal into the soul. Now, this effect is extremely powerful and extremely lengthy, but in short, he lets you call more units onto your board so that you can move all of them into the soul, so that he can subtract your opponent's Vanguard's power and then get extra drive checks based off the number of cards you put into the soul. Hence the reason you want to have a lot of rear guards, so that you can increase the number of drive checks you get and subtract your opponent's power and get the full benefit of this card. Now, the power decrease is actually very important because when you're going with this deck, and because we are a force deck, depending if you go force 1 or force 2 on your matchups and what the scenario is and which marker you decide on and why, the power level and the critical becomes a lot more lethal and scarier to our opponent, because now that their power has been lowered, and in Vanguard you can have negative power, that does affect on how they guard their attacks and how they're going to shield them. Because 8 times or 9 times out of 10 from when I played earlier in the game, he does not do much. I'll just be honest here, he's not like the best first Grade 3 ride earlier in the game, because yeah, you get the minus 15k and you have to put some of your rear guards in the soul, but Dimension Police still has one of the main issues of being able to get a lot of resources back versus putting more resources out there to do a lot of damage. And 2 rear guards, it gets you 1 drive check, and 4 gets you 2 additional drive checks, but 4 rear guards is a lot for this deck, and our rear guards are important to our strategy. And the ride chain is 2, which means that you really want to make sure that you have all your pieces so that you get a full effect of this card. And when you don't have the ride chain complete, you do have to play around it a little bit just to make sure that you can get the benefits of this card, use this card as a finisher later in the game. For my next Grade 3, I play 4 copies of Black-clad top tier deity Bradblack. Bradblack is one of the best supporting Grade 3 units that Dimension Police has. It's one of your great second ride units, as if you go second, this is the card you want to go into to generate multiple attacks. He introduces power into our front row, as well as if he's your first ride, he helps set up to go into your Zeal turn if you already have the other Zeal cards in the soul. So it gets you resources, additional attacks, and power, so that this way you're meeting all the power requirements for all of your skills. It really does introduce something to Dimension Police that we haven't had in a very long time, or ever, which was multiple attacks. And with this card being able to just be one of our staple Grade 3s, it's extremely helpful to what this deck needs to get done. Moving on to my next Grade 3, I play 2 copies of Ultimate Dimensional Robo Great Daiyusha. Now, Great Daiyusha is probably one of the most popular finishing options for most Dimension Police decks in the circumstances of if our Zeal isn't working or if we're not able to set up into Zeal properly to take full advantage of this card. We have Great Daiyusha to fall back onto and give us more multiple attacks. And then for my last grade 3, I play one copy of Super Dimensional Robo, Dairacer. Now I'm playing one copy of Dairacer simply because there are a lot of players or decks out there that have no problem generating huge hand sizes, and Dairacer with the additional of Zeal's effect combined with Dairacer applying so much power onto your front row when your opponent's power is already so low is extremely devastating for our opponent. I'm now going to move on to my grade 2s, and my first grade 2 that I'm playing is 4 copies of Devourer Planet's Zeal. Zeal's ability is act on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, which is Counterblast 1, the rest 2 Rearguard units, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and until the end of the turn it gets minus 5,000 power if you have Eye of Destruction Zeal in your soul. It has the second ability, which is when rode upon by a grade 3, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards and it gets minus 5,000 power to the end of the turn. Now this should come as no surprise to nobody. 4 copies of Devourer Planet Zeal is essential to our deck as he is part of the ride chain for Zeal, and you can't get the full effect of the second ability unless you have this card in the soul. So you really do want to be able to play 4 of it, because if you can't ride into it, you have Zeal's effect at least later in the game where you can push it into the soul and then reap all the benefits of its skill. Moving on to my next grade 2, I play 4 copies of Platinum Ace. Platinum Ace is probably one of the most solid grade 2 support cards for all Dimension Police players, as its ability to become a 15k attacker on the grade 2 Vanguard turn makes it a lot more aggressive on your grade 2 Vanguard turn, and then getting the additional critical when your power is over 30,000 for just a Soul Blast, as well as the additional 10,000 power, makes him one of the best supporting units to have, as we have a lot of effects in this deck that power up our rear guards, and because this deck focuses on reducing your opponent's power, even if his power isn't extremely high, because their power is going to be in the negative, they still have to expend a lot of cards and resources to stop this unit's attack, as this unit's power isn't just being increased, but its critical is being increased as well. And before, via trigger effects, you don't know how deadly this card is going to be. So I definitely think that 4 is the way to go, as it's just the most offensive grade 2 that this deck has, and this deck is all about aggression. There's no reason to play defensively when you're reducing your opponent's power so much, taking away their cards. You just want to play the most aggressive units, take as many cards away from them, and then just kill them with their power being reduced, and win with the multiple attacks your deck can generate. For my last grade 2, I play 2 copies of Quick Hero Active Mask. Now my whole theme with this deck has simply been about increasing your power, decreasing your opponent's power, get multiple attacks, and Active Mask is pretty much the prime example of the whole theme of this deck, as being able to get an additional attack for 1 counterblast when your power is at 30,000 or more works extremely well. Now to showcase the grade 1s. My grade 1 lineup is pretty simple, I believe. I play 4 copies of Twin Blader. Twin Blader is a staple in Dimension Police. If you are playing a Dimension Police deck and you are not playing Twin Blader, I don't care what deck you're playing the deck wrong. Whether you're playing less than 2 or 3 or 1, if you're playing 1, I don't know why you're playing 1, but you need to play 4 copies of this card. Being able to generate 10,000 power for every single marker you have on your board is amazing, and the fact that this deck has Bradblack introduced into it, as well as a ride chain, means that we do have the chance of riding grade 3s more time. We do have a chance of riding multiple grade 3s throughout the game, meaning that we're going to generate more markers. And because the skill activates just when it boosts instead of just when it boosts the Vanguard, that means that you can generate more than 30,000 power on a card at a time. For my next grade 1, I play 4 copies of Cosmic Hero Grandrope. Cosmic Hero Grandrope is still very important to this deck, as we do have key grade 3 pieces that we want to see, whether it be early game or late game. And the fact that he gets 5,000 power for such ridiculously easy cost is good to have, as well as he helps make our columns a lot stronger and a lot more lethal, since we're gaining power and our opponent is not. And to finish this grade 1 lineup off, I play 4 copies of Eye of Destruction Zeal. Eye of Destruction Zeal is a part of the ride chain. You need it for the grade 2 if you want to get the full benefits of that one. And he also searches out our Zeal pieces, which gives us more consistency and deck thinning to get rid of our pieces. that we don't want in our decks, we can see triggers more, and so on. Moving on to my triggers, I play 2 copies of Dimensional Robo Dairacer, 4 copies of Justice Cobalt, 6 critical triggers. I play 2 copies of Army Penguin, and 4 copies of Diamond Ace, 6 draw triggers. And I play 4 copies of Cosmic Hero Grandrescue. Alright you guys, so it's about that time in the deck profile where I tell you guys which marker I think is best to play for this specific deck build. And the marker that I found myself going the most throughout most of my play testing was Force 2, but the reason why it's in a Force 1 marker is because Force 1 is also an extremely viable option for this deck as well. Throughout multiple games of play testing against the current meta that I have played against, I found that depending on what pieces I had in my hand and how my early game was going, depending on where my opponent's damage was at, did affect which marker I chose. When I had my Twin Bladers and I had my offensive pieces that were focused on my power levels, such as my Platinum Ace or my Active Mask, and I had the ability to generate multiple attacks and weren't seeing very many triggers early in the game, specifically my criticals, because I only play 6, I found myself that going Force 1 was the best option, because I found myself going to Force 2 was the best option, because seeing as how I already had my Active Mask and my Platinum Ace and my Twin Bladers to already generate the power that I was missing prior was extremely helpful in making sure that I meet that power quota for all of my skills. And because the multiple attacks is important to me, with my opponent's damage being low and taking away more cards from them when I ride him as my Vanguard to get the additional 5,000 power off, this becomes a lot more lethal, because you can place it on a rear guard that could possibly restand like our Active Mask, or if you played into the Bradblack play later in the game, that means you got 2 force markers in play. With the power of your opponent's units being already so low, those 2 units become a lot more lethal, because now they have to deal with the reduction of power, and while hoping for a damage trigger, which they can't do because you got a critical of 2 here and a critical of 2 here prior to any trigger checks. And then when the trigger checks come through, if you see at least 1 critical, that means that all of your attacks are becoming a lot scarier for your opponent, meaning that you actually in a way damage deny them, because there's just so many criticals coming their way, and with their power being so low, they have to expel so many resources to survive. And they can only take maybe like 1 attack a turn, depending on what your other unit is. But if you have a Platinum Ace, a Zeal, and an Active Mask, and you got at least a Force 2 on the Vanguard and here, that means that your entire front row is of critical 2 or more. And those are the winning situations that I found myself in, because your opponent can't deal with that much if they're going to be at like 2 or 3 damage, because they potentially could get double critical, or have to deal with an attack that can attack multiple times, or have to deal with a unit that can attack multiple times with a critical on it. So Force 2 is the route that I mainly see myself going. The games that I go Force 1 are the games that I'm missing pieces for, and this Force 1 just helps me keep up. My opponent's power is already low, and 9 times out of 10 they don't know what my triggers are going to be. But because I already have the additional power, that does take out a lot of resources from their hand, and you add the triggers before to it, and then it makes your attacks a lot scarier, as I stated before. But if I had to choose and I had to just take one away, it would be Force 2 9 times out of 10. Alright you guys, so that was it for today's deck profile. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deck profile, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. Do not forget to comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on my channel to get notified when all my deck profiles and discussions come out. And if your friend is thinking about building a Zeal deck for VPremium, go ahead and share this video with them. This deck, like all my other decks, is a template for you to decide how you want to build your decks from your own personal experience. But I have 2 more deck profiles coming out specifically for this nation, which is Stargate, and they're going to be coming out within the same day of this one. So stay tuned for that. Peace.